So what's being expressed here is a story. It's a story about stumbling always into nothing and then trying to figure out what that nothing was. There's always this clarity, and the clarity gets obscured by words, by ideas of what is, what can never be talked about, what can never be expressed. There's always a seeming stumbling in the apparent story of this character of trying to figure out things. But it just goes in circles over and over again, because when it thinks that it figured out something, that something crashes back into nothing. And it's trying to figure out again what was lost when it was really nothing. Here's a story. In my early 20s, really, maybe 19 or 20, I can't really remember the timeline, so forgive me if I get it wrong. There was a longing for freedom. And in that time, apparently, there was no idea about what spirituality was. It was still coming from religiousness, and it got out of religiousness. But it wanted some freedom on its own. So like any young character that ventures out for wildness, it ran away and went to a different city with only about maybe just a few $100 in its pocket, hoping to make it in the city, and ultimately failing when he could not pay the YMCA room that it rented. So after a few days, of course, without finding any job, without finding any hope, all that dreams of making it big in the city on your own, without parents, without authority, without anything, all of a sudden, there was homelessness. I got kicked out of the YMCA because I could not pay. And here I was with the bag, couple of the only belongings, and looking at the possibility of not knowing where to go. Homeless. But somehow, for some odd reason, there was a freedom that was never felt. At the end of the dreams, at the end of the hopes, there was this liberation that cannot be said in words. It became nameless. The story didn't matter. Well, I didn't really call my parents to ask for help. There was just this seeing that there's just this freedom here. And I ended up in one of the poorest postal code in Canada with a bunch of other homeless kids. But there was freedom, like, wow. There was no more safety. There's no religion. Since no one knew me, no one could judge me. I was just a face in a sea of faces of unfortunate ones that usually just ends up with nothing and trying to make it. Fast forward, this is kind of like a twist in a story that I've been telling over and over again. Fast forward a couple of decades, or I can't remember when, or maybe just a decade after accumulating spirituality, hundreds of hours of certification of being a spiritual teacher, seemingly have given away material possessions to long for what is freedom. Here was the famous story with my outfit in spirituality, kombucha in hand, playing with my mala beads, 108 of them, thinking about of how I finally got here, of how I am now spiritually superior. I probably have spent thousands of hours of meditation, and I was tapping my spiritual self, the higher self, on the back of finally making it. I was walking along and I stumbled upon the street where I was homeless. And what really triggered was not the homelessness, but the seeing that despite of all of this accomplishments, hundreds and hours of meditation, hundreds and hours of spiritual education, couple of certificates certifying that I'm a spiritual teacher now, and seemingly going on a path of liberation, yet somehow there was a remembrance of that character that was free, that was homeless, that didn't have anything, that saw freedom without limits, despite of what might be happening. I was, when I lost my computer, I was able to uncover a whole bunch of journals. Maybe I'll read it later, of that initial seeing, of that seeing that,
I don't know that one.
Sorry, there's Alexa. If this initial seeing that nothing really matters, nothing was illuminated. So apparently in the story, I went back and brought my dog, and my dog was my compass of the unconditionality of what was seen. And I was looking at my dog and how my dog just greeted everyone unconditionally, regardless of a person that was, shooting up heroin, a person that was helping. And there was this burst, like, it's like my heart has exploded. Some people call it Kundalini awakening. Some people call it enlightenment. Some people call it dropping away of the veil. But what was seen was that freedom that does not have any boundaries, that freedom that cannot be captured in words. That same freedom that was felt when nothing really mattered, when there's no judgments, when there's no words that can comprehend what is happening. Seemingly, I attributed that apparent experience, that Kundalini awakening, to the self. That all I saw was the self. I saw the self in everyone's face. I saw the face of enlightenment. I saw the face of nothing in everyone. In trying to maintain that disappearance of thoughts, the disappearance of reason, the disappearance of knowing, the disappearance of everything I knew, I held on to a concept of the self getting enlightened. There was no longer a me, I became a being. And to maintain that, I thought that I had to do or maintain that attainment that propelled me into a spiritual journey of maintaining what was not seen. So what apparently happened was there was just this seeing that nothing really matters. Nothing was illuminated. But what was illuminated, what disappeared when nothing is illuminated, is all these ideas about separation, all these ideas about what is, all these ideas about spirituality. So there was a collapse. And seemingly, there is almost like a default system that comes in to tries to explain what is. All of a sudden, it becomes an enlightenment story, an awakening story of something that was never there. It finds home in homelessness. It finds separation in something that never really occurred to anyone. It becomes the end of the journey or the beginning of the journey. So the journey is illuminated as something that is happening to me. But in retrospect, looking back, looking at the journals and trying to decipher something that never really happened, what was seen was the absence of the one that's driving the show, the absence of the one that is seemingly on a journey to find itself. On its journey to find itself, it stumbled and fell and had a temporary amnesia that there was never a self. So there were no more separation. Some people called it that all that there was this unconditional love, this bursting of unconditional love. But that's again saying way too much. I have talked to several people about this apparent unseeing of separation, but the words always get in the way. The words try to maintain the words of what happened by creating a word that is made real. And the word behind all of this word is that silent S, the self. But that silent self, or the one that thinks that it's happening to, the seeming root of all of this separation, oh, S also stands for separation, is seen as absent. It's like when the curtain is when there's nothing behind the curtain, it makes up to see who sees that. But what if the curtain, when it's pulled all together, that there's no witness to it? There's nothing behind and nothing looking at what's behind the curtain. That curtain is the elimination of the separate line that creates this or that, the self or the higher self, or the self or no self. Because the moment that there is an acknowledgement that there's a no self, that's also separation. There was a self that saw that there was no self, and it just goes into this wordplay. It goes into this, and it goes into this narrative again, the narrative of no narrative. But since all of it is just narrative, so what's being expressed here is that when nothing is eliminated, there's just an absence of stories. But somehow stories are being told to express the absence of the stories. It just goes in circle. At one point, fast forward again, I'm sorry, going back again, maybe about 5 years ago, when there was this, seemingly there's no final, but the complete seeing that there was no witnessing and there's nothing witnessing it. So there's no back and forth. There's nothing, no awareness anymore. There's no more the default system of the self that's trying to figure out itself is completely seen, meaning that when the curtain was drawn, there was no one seeing it and there's nothing being seen. There was a speechlessness for quite a while. And I think I've mentioned this in my early talks, that the moment that I try to speak, it muddies up what's already clear. And it's the same in any talks. It's the same in everything that you've ever heard, or you've ever thought. It always muddies up what's always clear. Because without words, without thoughts, without trying to understand, without trying to get it, it's already clear that everything is done because it never begun. That the seeking never really happened because the seeking just happens in words. It's just longing for more words to eliminate the word, but it just goes in circles again. So again, what's being eliminated is that there's usually a honeymoon period of like, oh, wow, this wordlessness. But that's not a special occasion, because that, oh, wow, without the wow, perhaps, what I'm saying, is just because it's just ignored often because it doesn't appear in words. It's always this. It's always this. The words might get in the way, the words might muddy it, but it's always this without saying anything. Even when saying something, what is being longed for is permanent. What is being wished for, the peace. Again, I'm talking in words again, but there's no way out of it. The peace that wants to be achieved or attained can never be attained in words. Meaning that without words, without concepts, without ideas, without stories, it always is. It can never be dismantled. It can never be attained. It can never be found, because the finding and the losing just appears in a level of thought. On the level of thought, there are words, there are belief systems, there are ideas, there are revelations. But what if nothing needs to be revealed, because it's always revealed? It's always nothing. Nothing is always illuminated. But the illumination does not need to be seen or to be experienced or to be thought of something different. But sometimes, with all of these words that swirls around, when will I get this? Is it this really? Is he talking about the truth? Are just words. Sometimes they fall like flies for no reason at all. Or just sometimes when there's just some clarity, you're like, are we just talking in circles, really? Are we just creating more words to create more words to maintain reality? Although reality is just a word? Are we making a juxtaposition of what's true and what is not? Are we comparing experiences of others, although experiences are just made with a bunch of words? Are we longing for that orgasmic, I want what she's having or he's having, although those are just created by words? Are we having a Harry met Sally moment that the one that's speaking is just faking it, but you want what's being faked? So again, when there's nothing illuminated, it's free fall. It's everything is allowed. There's nothing that is even not allowing is allowed, because what is allowing and what's not being allowed are just concepts, words, ideas, stories. And then the stuckness usually is that when someone is on a spiritual journey, is thinking that they have finally arrived at non-duality, the last frontier. This is the last. Again, when you think that it's the last frontier, it automatically reinforces what was before. It automatically reinforces all the historical words that has seemingly got you here. Words that creates this illusion of suffering and joy. Words that create separation. But somehow, when what's being expressed, when it's being expressed that there is no duality, although that's appearing in words, we can also say that there's no non-duality. Because they just appear in this idea of the final frontier of my seeking. So when there is an acknowledgement of a seeking by calling this the final step, or what I used to think before that, when I get enlightened, God will take the last step. I have to do all of my, everything that I'm doing, like maintaining bliss, maintaining purity and everything. When I do that, then God will take the final step, that I will disappear. But again, that's just creating another narrative of another word taking over the illusory word that you made up. And then when it finally gets into this final frontier of this is it, this is just what is and everything, then it becomes a litany of words that is maintained. And it misses what is by focusing on what is should be. It misses it on this is it because it gets really invested in what this is. This does not need any investment. This does not need any noticing. This does not need any kind of acknowledgement or a dropping away. This does not need any words. So when nothing is illuminated, words are irrelevant. This talk is completely irrelevant. Comparing others is irrelevant. Nothing is irrelevant that appears as words, thoughts, ideas, concepts. Because when there are no words that can describe this, meaning that when what's being expressed is simply not true, the moment that words try to describe the indescribable, it's caught up again that there's something that's being missed. But nothing is missing. because nothing is always illuminated. If you have any questions, please go ahead. I keep on going with longer intros. Sorry about that. Hi, Leela.
Trying to figure out how to unmute myself on my phone.
You're unmuted.
Good morning.
Good morning. It's early there, huh?
I'm laying in bed, which is why you're not seeing my full regalia.
No worries.
So the last 2 days have been devoted to words.
Yeah.
But I would like to circle even lower.
Yeah, sure.
Down the rabbit hole and say that I texted in the chat yesterday, you don't need words to think.
Yeah.
And I would like to circle down to images for a minute.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Because when I was a Buddhist, one of the exercises was to look at the scrapbook of your life and to lay it out in a supposed timeline. And to notice that the idea of a timeline and the idea of a you is made not just of story, but of sequences of images.
Mm.
And so this is like, most of us don't remember ourselves as a baby unless we saw a picture or video or something.
Yeah.
And so what we did was we looked at all of them, and then we did some sort of ritualistic burning of the whole thing, the whole shebang. And I prefer to construct my stories in images.
Yeah.
I'm more, there are certain people who are verbal and certain are visual.
Yeah.
And it just works better for me to construct like if you were to say what I want in the world, I can see it in images.
Yeah.
And I don't hear it in words. When I think mostly in images.
Yeah.
And so they're the same as words, of course.
Yeah.
What's so interesting is I've been playing around with AI lately, and it's so fascinating.
Me too.
How you can put, I'm playing with ChatGPT with my virtual reality project, but also with DALI and Stable
I
Diffusion.
can see you. Just a second. There we go.
Yeah, DALI and Stable Diffusion. So you put in words and the images come.
Yeah.
And the connections may not be the ones I would make, but all of a sudden they become reality.
Yeah.
They, like this avatar on my picture. I don't know if you see this avatar. This is just
I did see that. I
have
have
an app.
Yeah, I have a couple ones like that. They're from Lensa.
Right, from something. But then that's as much who I am as a picture from 10 years ago or 5 years ago or whatever.
Yeah.
Because it's in my folder of pictures of me.
Yeah.
So the avatar in the game, the non-existent game, is a creation not just of language, but of all the senses.
Yeah.
Not just of language and vision, but of taste and touch. It has music, it has color.
Yeah.
And depending on how we dream at night, it's as much, it's only as real as that. So I want to hear what you had to say about that. Number one.
My next talk actually is called Nothing is Seen. Nothing is seen. And it's just basically like I segmented the 3 days. I came up with 3 titles, and I'm like, you know what, why don't I stick with one topic? But seemingly the words, you know what I'm saying, just keeps on happening because there's this particular 3 days I've been getting full-on emails after each day, right, of about words and everything, because it's really
triggering.
It's really triggering. Yeah, it's really triggering. It's really kind of like how about this word, how about this word? So I keep on just repeating it and everything. But nothing is seen is, it's like, what is being seen is it's the AI, the automaticness is labels it right away. And not even in words, in feelings, you know what I'm saying? In just expressions, in sensations.
Yes, see, images are connected though to the limbic system faster than the languages.
Yeah.
Like it's down lower in the brain.
Yeah.
On the primal scale. And everybody, speakers, Kenneth and
Mhm.
Jim Newman, and I've heard you say this, I think, that what's communicated is not in language and not is
Yeah.
energetic.
Yeah. That's
And
what
by
it is. Yeah.
energetic, what is meant is a layer below the images.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's not words, it's not images, but it's something. It's not an emotion,
no.
but it's the energy of which this all is made.
Yes. And again, we're using words like energy again, right? And there's going to be stuckness because the moment that, when you think of energy and everything, then it becomes a artificially figured out as something, although it's really pertaining to something that cannot be figured out. It's just something that does not, in the realm of understanding. When you say energy, usually it's meant to kind of like expressed as it's really unknowable. What's happening is unknowable, but it's appearing as, it's not in the words, it's not in the knowing, it's not in the understanding, it's not in the concepts, it's not in non-duality, it's whatever. But it's again, see, there's a lack of word for it. I'm trying to say something else other than energy. But it's energetic. Yeah. And then
But then I spent listening to Ariana back in the day, a year ago, where she said energy every other word. I was like, what's this energy? What's this energy? I want to know what she's talking
exactly,
about.
yeah.
Like, I was obsessed with it. Like, is it spanda? Is it like what the Kashmiri Shaivites call vibration of existence?
Yeah.
Is it like electricity? Is it zero
Yeah.
point energy?
Is
Is
it
it what the fuck? You're
vibrations?
right. So I'm
Yeah.
putting my brain all around this whole
Yeah.
concept of energy, which was complete futility.
Yeah.
Um
It's
anyway, so
none
the
of that.
point is the point
Yeah.
is this word rabbit hole is the
It is
first
another.
circle. It's the
Yeah.
first circle of hell because the whole rabbit hole
Mm-hmm.
is lined with um this mirror reality we've created, right?
Yeah.
Like the sense of me for most of us is more connected to the box top image, the whole pictured image of ourselves. None of us have ever seen
That's right.
as
Yeah.
only but a reflection. So we see in a photograph, and that's our idea of ourselves, is something we've never seen.
Yeah.
Because where we sit headlessly, we never see the whole thing,
Yeah.
right? We only see it in reflection. So our sense of self is an image more than
Yeah.
it is a word that then develops a whole bunch of stories.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh,
so that image has a feeling to it, and that's a layer lower, and that feeling has an energy, and then it goes down, down, down the rabbit hole.
it does. Yeah. And all of a sudden, the what is being exposed, meaning that there's really nothing, what I'm saying? Kind of like that sense of separation is really like an error in perfection that never really happened, if you know what I'm trying to say. That
Mm-hmm.
it's impossible, really. It becomes a
Mm-hmm.
possibility, it becomes a reality by creating, a rabbit hole of words that leads to its greatness, leads to its
Mm-hmm.
infallibility, leads into its um absoluteness.
Mm-hmm.
So it becomes unquestionable, because the
Mm.
questioning, the reality is always questioning itself, can only maintain its reality by creating an infallible reality. Although infallible reality are just made up words to kind of like to hide that the word, that is not real, that you have to call it a word to make it real, um, is just really not there. It's as real as AI.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just wow, it's just wow, mind blowing that there is nothing creating this. Because the moment that you think that there is a creator, you're stuck in the end credits of the movie again, trying to look who's the director, who's the producer.
Right.
And you're thinking that the whole movie is real because there's a producer, there's a director, there is an actor, so you're looking for that. And then when that doesn't satisfy you, then you become the creator, then you become the producer, the one that's witnessing, then you become the witness, the silent witness to this. which is just really tricky because if there is a witnessing to this, that's another simply not two. It's just another
Yes.
two-ness.
Yes.
So it creates this alternate, like reality of
Right.
a level of witnessing or an awareness or consciousness that just if anyone that has ever practiced awareness and consciousness, abiding in everything, it just is a circular nightmare.
It's always circular.
It
Somebody
is.
yesterday suggested 1899, so I binge watched it last
Did
night.
you?
Yeah, and
I've seen Dark.
it's
I've seen Dark, which is
fascinating. It has all the themes of like the Jim Carrey, like the a lot of these movies, like reflective reality movies, like the Jim Carrey one was where he was the story
Truman
when
Show.
he stuck it, yeah, Truman Show, and they're peeling the reality, they're peeling the wallpaper off and seeing it's not what they think. But of course, the end thesis is it's some sort of a simulation made from a starship out in the middle, which is just like saying there's God, right? Or anything else.
There's always going to be a story will always have an origin story.
Right.
Because if you rewrote that and there's no origin story, then it's not satisfying.
Right.
It's the kind of like, well, like, do you remember those movies that always end up you're scratching your head? As good as the movie, sometimes you're like, oh, I wish.
Right. They leave you, they drop you.
They leave you hanging, yeah.
So I said yesterday, right, was God, the word was God.
The God, yeah.
And then God, the word became flesh.
Exactly.
And then God walked on the earth.
That's right. Yeah.
So God, the idea, walked in us as flesh, as form, but the word could not walk on the earth without becoming flesh in some way.
Yeah.
So it's so interesting. I don't know where this is taking me. I'm trying not to grab onto it with the brain, but I do have this sense of all I see these days are self-reflective bubbles. Every time I talk to someone, I can see their bubble, how big or small it is. I can see my own in certain cases where I get triggered, and then I can see jumping out of it. But I don't know where I jump to, but the image, because I think in images, I'm just jumping out of like the fish jumping out of the bowl into the ocean. It feels like there's all of a sudden an expansion from the contraction of that self, that chasing your tailness of words, or of emotions, like, oh, that person did so and so, they shouldn't have done, or this idea of me that I have, are all just bubbles on the way down the rabbit.
Yeah.
Bubbles
made real.
Bubbles made real.
Bubbles made real. Yeah.
It's like a little kid sitting there with that soapy water. Just blow one and jump in it. And then it pops, and blow one and jump in another. It pops. Okay. That's it. I've said enough.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing, Nita. Thank you. And you are part of that inspiration of just looking at words, because you're like, Emerson, I'm stuck in emptiness. I'm like, oh no. Remember that when we're talking? Because I try to utilize, words that has a lot of holes that you can't grasp into. And then by researching emptiness, I'm like, oh no, it appears in Buddhism and everything, because you told me. But so every single word, what I'm saying, has a weight to it. Even if you call it, it's less weight, it still has a weight to it.
Oh, I thought you said it has a weight, as in, you know how a wave on the ocean, every word is a wave.
You can also say that, yeah.
And then it has a wake. It takes with it a bunch of stuff, right?
I was talking to someone that inspired, the intro to this thing about it's just really just waves crashing back and forth in deathly silence.
See,
Yeah.
That's what's so great about the poetry, because it can throw them out,
Yeah.
create images, and then not attach itself to any meaning, but more to something ineffable,
Yeah.
you know, which is the best description.
It is. Yeah.
But
It is.
the other thing I wanted to say about images, I used to belong to a group, I still do occasionally belong to dream groups where people share their
Oh,
dream images. And I noticed that when someone shares a dream and I have any emotional connection with them at all, it becomes as if it was my dream. So I will incorporate pieces of their dream into my own dreams. And it's just like someone who you care about tells you their life story, like you just told us your life story. So now that pieces of Emerson become part of my life story.
yeah.
And that's how we create this web
Yeah.
of images and words that we all bounce up and down on like a trampoline. This is like Indra's net. That's what they meant with the symbol Indra's net.
Yeah.
That we are creating an interwoven web of causes and conditions
Yeah.
that's created by every interaction in words and images. And that's reality.
Beautifully said. Yeah. It's just a web of words, isn't it? Right?
The
That
World
creates this
Wide Web.
reality. Yeah. The World Wide Web. www dot.
That's right. And that's why
Yeah.
the AIs are doing so well.
It
Because they're
is.
just
It's a
jumping up and
recreation of
down
this
on the
illusion. Yeah.
WW. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. That's why virtual reality is going in full speed. If you notice, right? You're
Right.
like, what the hell? I bought
Well, they haven't
Oculus.
been able to integrate that's what we're working on now. I want to create a real-time lucid dream in VR,
Oh,
but the World Wide Web, the AI, the Chat GPT, and the visuals are not. They're 2D still. They're not generating 3D yet.
yeah.
They're generating the
Yet.
illusion of 3D, but
Yeah.
to actually walk through 3D, they need to work on another plane. So yeah,
Yeah.
they're not there yet, but you can do what they did in 1899. You can wrap their picture
Yeah.
around a sphere, and as long as you're far enough from the edge of the sphere, it seems like it's real.
Yeah. Totally.
So,
Yeah.
right?
It's beautiful, huh?
Anyway, all right, enough. Bye.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Steve.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good.
I can tell.
Yeah.
I'm glad that Leela brought up the idea concerning images, because I was thinking about when you were speaking about words yesterday, the idea of images. Now, going back to my old NLP days where you have these, what they call representational systems, you've got the visual and the auditory and the kinesthetic, and then you've got the other senses, as Leela was talking about. And in some individuals, apparently from the way they described it, some people lead when they think with their visual, some people lead with the auditory and so forth. But I also, while we're in the rabbit hole, I also wanted to indicate that you can have words can appear as visual,
Yeah.
or they can be heard as auditory, or they can simply be felt. And the words themselves can trigger the feelings
Of
and the
course. Yeah.
steam. So it's it's kind of an interactive sea.
Yeah. It's a very immersive kind of like, it's a very immersive of creating an illusory experience of two: visual,
And,
word, auditory, tactile, everything, right? That seems to appear.
and the machete that you were using yesterday, that was slashing these words, applies equally or is similarly applicable with all the other ways in which the illusion manifests.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. It's using it against itself. it's 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 spinning it. It's basically, it's someone, I was talking to someone, it's like you're like a word assassin. You're assassinating words, but you're using words to
Right,
assassinate
right.
words. Yeah.
And for me, it's, I tend to think of what's the counter argument?
Yeah.
What about, but this smashes back at the what about? It says,
Exactly.
forget it. It's not important.
Exactly.
Forget it. Thanks very much.
I have a friend here, that apparently, you know what I'm saying, saw through the words, right? He calls me last night and he goes, Emerson, there's a guy on TikTok. Go to your TikTok and find this guy. And he say that he's going to pay someone $2,000 or something to disprove, if anyone can disprove that there's no God. And he goes, go to it, go to it, go to it, go to it. He goes, I'm going to be watching, going to be watching. So I got on it. Within not even 2 minutes, he banned me right away because he my argument is like, without using any words, any thoughts, how can you prove that there's a God? Crickets, 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 and then ban me right away. And then my friend and I were laughing so hard. I'm like, where's my $2,000? Because it's the end of argument. If you can't, and then he was trying to come up with a whole bunch of stuff, and really, basically, people were like that were commenting on it. They're like, oh shoot, he's finally been served, right? It's just a really simple question. How can you prove anything without words? Without using words? You can't.
And even if you could, what are you going to accomplish?
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
need more words to talk about what you accomplished.
Exactly. Yeah. He was trying to, I can't remember what it was, but he was trying to come up, well, everything that's seen. I'm like, well, everything that's seen becomes a word. It becomes
Right.
labeled with words. Even when you say that, well, it can't be labeled with words, we just did label it without words. It's always the moment there's always dualism the moment that thinking happens, because the visual is paired with the words. The visual is paired with the inner, and the outer are always paired with something. Automatically it connects. Again, when there is this absence, you know what I'm saying? When there is kind of like in this absence is all that there is, really. I'm trying to come up with a new word. I'm calling it absence.
And even if something pops up, even if you associate a word with an image and so forth, you've got to have a context around that,
Yeah.
separate from that,
Yeah.
to give significance or meaning.
Yeah. And even if you backpedal and basically say, you know what I'm saying? Even if you backpedal and say that, well, it's just all awareness. I'm like, who knows that though? Right? Because that's the argument. They're like, well, it's wordless, it's wordless awareness or absolute awareness. That's just made up again.
Sure.
And it's the same, well, there must be something. I'm like, well, that something, you know what I'm saying, can't be thought about. The moment that you think about something as something, then that's just in the realm of your understanding.
Yeah.
I'm going to try again tonight to go to the TikTok guy and collect my money, but
Good luck.
I'll open up a new account. Oh, thanks, Karen. Did I record that? Oh, you mean the TikTok? No, no, no. It was just like late at night, and my friend just kind of like, um, and usually the funny thing is that it's just usually what this person was contending was based on a belief system. So usually people that come on it are usually atheists that has a belief system as well. But when I came on it, there's neither a belief or a non-belief, because it's just in the realm of words, right? So they're just basically talking in the realm of words, and it's easy to win a battle with words by using a word that seems to be infallible. When you put a weight on the word as something that cannot be questioned, then usually the one that has the power, the seeming power, there's no power in words, the seeming power in words as undeniable or whatever. But when you use the word against what, the very same word that they're using to show the absence or the ridiculousness of that argument, then it can't, it can't move an inch. And usually you can't argue with someone with a solid belief system. They won't accept defeat. That's why they had that, I'll pay $2,000 because their belief is for them is unquestionable. But when the belief system only exists in words, when you question the very words that are being used as equally all irrelevant in trying to prove something, then yeah. Maybe I should invite him to a non-duality meeting. Are your backgrounds AI? No, they're just from an app that has recommends similar kind of like pictures and stuff. Yeah. The moment I find, maybe one day I'll use an AI to create the backdrops. It's kind of cool. Hi, Emerson. I really like the long format. I wish you would release all of the longer formats. Yes, I am not probably publicly, but to people that have attended this, I'll probably chop up a lot of this, just the intros and stuff, and release that. But yeah, unfortunately, I have been actually stopping a lot of this stuff so that there's an easiness for people to come up and ask questions after an hour or so. So it's not the 2 hours, but if you attended, usually there's a conversation at the end that gets really interesting when the recording is off. Especially last night. I see your excitement when delivering all of this. Is it because you've realized something new, or where is this excitement coming from? I don't really know. You know what I'm saying? There's excitement. Usually it's when there is just expressing what cannot be expressed. And when there's clarity, when there's just this joy, you know what I'm saying, in revealing that nothing can be revealed. I don't know if that makes sense. How about the word locality? Locality is just another word, right? To create a separate idea of locality, of separation. Yeah. What does that really even mean, locality? There's a definition to it, but if it's seen just from, it's just seen as a word, every single word just basically creates this idea of separation or non-separation even, which is still a word trying to describe something. So any word that will pop up just leads to more thinking of what that word is. What does that word mean anyway, Nicole? Let's explore it. When you see words in passing and you can read, you will have read the words automatically and made some understanding of them automatically. So it's what's being said that actually this does not happen and it's just an idea. Yeah. So there's this whole, you know, and I'm telling this in words and stories, and it's just basically an expression of something. So it's like there is a world of words. In this world of words, there is this suggested reality of separation. So there's an automaticness of kind of like, you know, when you're kind of like what's happening right now, there is just, it's just really silence. If you're really listening to what's happening, there's silence and it's getting chopped up into sounds like I'm speaking in tongues, blah, 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 blah. It's the same thing. Yeah. Hi, Nicole. Wanted to.
So it's just totally empty, like everything.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a dream, right? So for example, in a dream at night, like a nighttime dream, you're dreaming of these words and images and everything. And then when you wake up, you're like, oh, wow, that's just in the realm of dream, that all of that reality did not happen at all.
Mommy.
And the other layers of this ultra kind of like illusion reality is it appears in words. It's like automatically speaking in tongues, you know, saying mommy, that kind of thing. But just like your baby, right? She's just automatically expressing.
Just empty sounds, meaningless sounds.
Yeah.
Just
I like
for
what
fun.
Lauren says, just bubbles. It's just like bubbling.
Just for fun, just for play.
She's so cute. Thea. Thea. Hi, Thea. Hello. I'm in a spaceship. But yeah, it's wild. It's wild. I've been getting a lot of letters from once people are like, I was walking one day and I just stopped. It goes, everything is made up of words. And it's like looking like stop sign, word, road, word, you know, sky, word, you know, everything is like, holy crow. No wonder the innocence, you know what I'm saying? Because when it's seen, you know, when there's an infant or a child, it doesn't see separation. It just sees as, you know, like if you noticed your baby, baby probably didn't know that she was separate from you until she probably said her first words. I think we're talking about that. When the mama became mama and then me.
Yeah, even the word mama, you could tell was her.
Yeah, it's her, right? Yeah. Mama, but she's pointing at you. Yeah.
She couldn't think any difference between anything, really, even looking in the mirror.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah. I have a 16-year-old nephew, and we're like we're kind of like laughing of how he used to kind of like say words and everything just really innocently. He likes
Yeah.
trucks, right? But the way that he pronounced truck was with the letter F.
Exactly.
So we would try to get him to say as many truck words as possible. I'm like, look, a red what? He goes, oh, a red truck, but with the F word.
That's the cutest thing I've ever heard of.
Yeah.
Yes. Burns everything. Everything.
Does.
Just the word fire.
Yeah, it is. I was talking to someone earlier this morning. Basically, he said, he goes, what are you going to talk about now that you burnt all of your words? I said, believe me, you know what I'm saying? There's still going to be words, right? You don't have to believe in it for it to come out, right? It's just it's somehow, you know what I'm saying? There is still going to be these words that are always going to be expressed and everything. But in hindsight, that's always, and even you, Nicole, that's what you've been trying to say for a long time too, is that this can't be expressed.
No.
Yeah.
You know what's amazing too, because what you're saying about the words, and there's ones that are preferred to be used to try as an attempt to describe this.
Yeah.
Trying to just putting, the words are just flowing out, and I was just some of them. I never once said that this is nothing being everything. Never once. And somehow it was heard, and then that apparent other used those words.
Yeah.
So it was just dancing along with how, everything is sort of or meaningless, and yet it's fully whatever is appearing. It's fully rage, it's fully anger, it's fully confusion, it's fully everything.
Yeah.
So somehow those words resonated. Whatever was communicated resonated, and it's such a for a spiritual seeker specifically. I mean, obviously you don't have to be seeking spiritually for this message to be attractive, or for this message to resonate, but for a spirit who's just exhausted with going in circles, it is so beautiful. Just full stop, and it can just be heard. That's how it was. It didn't take, it was just some words that were posted. Seeing how the watcher was an illusion, the one, the witnesses, that's another thought. The witness or the thought,
the observer, the seer, the awareness, the consciousness. It's just
it's the thought.
It's just a thought.
So then it was just like, so they're like, well, so then how do you maintain? How do you like?
Oh no.
Never been any maintenance. There's there's no controller. There's no controller of thoughts. There's no controller of anything. So it was like, but then they're like, but even the thought is it. I'm like, yep. You can't escape it. It's absolutely impossible to get away from everything.
And it's funny because the moment that there is a landing of some sort, right? It's a word made real. The word made real, right? And it's I like this because the moment that it seemingly kind of like gets there, and we'll say it's not even that. It's not that, it's just
like the end of the conversation, she was like, well, I'd like to tell you to have a good day, but with this knowing, it's probably just as it is. I was like, so even the word knowing doesn't mean anything. So there's nothing that you can actually end up resting and saying, okay, now, knowing, there's no knowing, there's no,
totally.
And So sure, why not tell me have a good day? I'll fucking tell you
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
have yourself. Oh, there's no self, but hey, enjoy your day, enjoy yourself,
Yeah.
whatever. Who cares? They're just light clay words.
Yeah. It's funny when someone usually says, well, Emerson, I know that there's no I, no Emerson, but I'm like, just say it. It's okay. It's all right. All right. It's just it's just language, right? So what's clearly seen is just this language is just an appearance, just like whatever. And it's not denying the appearance, but it's just seeing that it's just an appearance, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So even I think you were sharing a little bit about the back and forth. Somebody else
Yeah.
was like, but then I just wish the back and forth would just stop. I'm like, but that's just an idea that there could be a back and forth.
Yeah.
Because there's seeming change, so it seems to be different. But if there isn't one that's keeping track of some sense of continuity, there's just fresh happening.
Yeah.
Even if it seems like there's a contraction there,
Yeah.
that's
That's also
nothing.
it.
That's it.
Yeah. I like it when when there is like there's clarity, and the moment that the shit show happens, like someone said that oh wow, Emerson, I just noticed that I whatever situation, right, broke up, or someone got sick or whatever, and I'm like, well, that's it too,
Yeah.
but no one talks about that. That's it too.
Yeah, I was telling Catriona the other day, my kids were in the freezer and a huge gallon of ice cream fell on my.
Oh.
And I was so angry because I was just saying, don't get in that freezer. And so they did it. And then it hurt her. I took a frozen bag of peaches and I just chucked it at the wall. I'm just like, this is bad.
Yeah.
Then, of course, who cares? Naturally apologizing and
Yeah.
just dump onto
Or
whatever.
not even.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Emerson.
you. Faintly remember said, you do not like the term oneness. Isn't that another description for what is like no self? Yeah. In you know what, just any word that I say, actually, I don't really usually, repeat it as much. The word that I'm guilty of is emptiness. It's because it's a lack of a better word, right? But when someone pointed out that it's usually used in the spiritual circles, yeah. So there's just not any words that I cling to because it's just another word that creates more ideas, right? So, but how do you speak about without using any words? So there's neither a rejection or acceptance of oneness. It's just a word. But somehow, you know what? It avoids spiritual words because when I was in spirituality, I used oneness a lot. Someone uses noneness. That's a better word. Noneness. But again, the moment that someone tries to, although there's no someone, tries to figure out what noneness is, then it gets stuck in that word again. See the it's just ridiculous. It's really nothing, but it's just funny of how words can seemingly create this delusion of what it cannot figure out by trying to not try to figure it out by imagining it as unimaginable. I'm gonna read it. Hi, Emerson. Don't read this, but I can't keep up with what you're trying to say because I'm just trying to keep up with the words, and you keep on shooting them down. So, what are we going to do for the next, few hours when the words are always shut down? I don't know. Sorry, I read that. I thought it was just really funny. Hi, is this a newfound clarity, or was this something that was always there? There's always clarity, but the words get in the way. It reminds me of that song from Miami Sound Machine. The words get in the way. This dirty abuse of words. Allness, noneness. Yeah, any words at all. Self, no self, me, no me. It's just in the realm of words and understanding. Even when the word is being expressed, like for example, if I say ungraspable, it tries to grasp it. Because it can only exist in words. The self, the illusory self, or also called duality, the illusion of duality. Oh, Leela, I do love that AI picture. Wow. Hi, Emerson. I am addicted to non-duality porn language. Thank you for pointing that out. Oh, it's just the word that maintains words. That's basically it. Yeah. Also, nothing illuminated. Yeah. I did that too, Casey. I did Lensa. And you know what's really funny? There's options or something. The pictures that came out were all very spiritual, so I deleted all of them. Like, oh, this better not leak out. It was just pictures, with like, yeah, it looks like an enlightened kind of like, AI or
Yeah.
something, but there was no intention. I wanted it to be cool, like superhero, kind of like, like the Marvel comics thing, but it all came out like a spiritual thing. I'm like, what the hell? But yeah, so I deleted
Yeah.
it.
It's a good way to get like the general consensus on how the world sees something, because that's kind of how the images are generated and things.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh shit, that's not a good word.
Yeah, because you check, like I checked like cartoon, superhero, like kind of like I just
Yeah.
really wanted to send it to my little nephew, right? The reason I did that, and it all looked like I it was just like there was one with the third eye. I'm like, oh no. With like a third eye.
Did you try the eraser tool? You can like erase a
No.
part of the image.
No. I just
Okay.
looked at it like it's just a glance. I'm like, oh no, I'm gonna delete that. I was just like, what the hell? I thought it was going to look like, like Flash or, like a DC or Marvel comic character, right? But I guess when you're kind of like prompting the AI to create something kind of like more like magical or superhero, it creates this images that looks like that you're a spiritual thing. Maybe because I'm Asian.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why. Maybe
More special. There's like a little
maybe because of my Asian looks. It did not make me into a Superman or a Batman.
Oh,
It made me into a Buddha. Maybe
There's
that's
a
like
lot of
the AI
bias.
thing. It's like, oh no, this all looks like Buddha pictures or something. If I was a spiritual teacher, I would sell it, for like $10 each, and people can stare into it.
I would print it out, put it
No,
next to me on my
no.
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 What's that phrase? Burn your something? Burn your idols? Maybe? That's not a good phrase.
Burn your
I don't-
images or something. I don't
Oh,
know.
burn. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not nice to burn things, but
It's actually nice sometimes. Yeah.
sometimes. Yeah. You ever have those Duracell logs that you can light and they burn for like 4 or 5 hours?
There was one time in the forest that I think we burnt like it was the end of a when I was 16. I worked in Algonquin Park, which is kind of like a national park, and inside was a resort, and we burnt a whole bunch of stuff at the end. So I worked, and the fire was like maybe about 20 feet in the middle of the forest. That was wow.
Oh, shoot. Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you burn the whole forest down?
No. There was just a
Okay,
wide,
that's good.
big, massive area that you can burn. Like
That's
that.
fun.
Yeah,
Can
it
be
was
fun.
Yeah, maybe I'm exact. Maybe it looked like 20 feet, or maybe I don't know. That's just a story. Hi, Emerson. I dreamt of letters and alphabets last night. That's funny.
I have a funny story.
Go for it.
Okay. So in the story or whatever, I was in Pennsylvania knocking on people's doors trying to share the word of God or like Jesus Christ and how it can help families. And at the time I was helping train like
Were you
younger
Mormon at that time
people. I was.
or
That's
non-duality?
Mormon. Yeah,
Just
yeah, yeah.
joking.
Those, those cute boys out there looking. But no, I was training some younger dudes, and there's this dumb tradition that they do where after you reach, because it's 2 years, so after you reach your 1 year mark, like halfway
Did
through,
you
you'll
become
burn
an elder, right?
an
Elder Casey.
Yeah, they're called elder.
Yeah.
Yeah, y'all elder
Yeah.
case. People were like confused about that. Like, I look too old. Anyway, so there's a tradition. You burn your shirt after a year just to be like, hey, it's the halfway point. And so this bad thing happened with these missionaries below us where they did that, they made like a cross out of sticks to hang the shirt on, just dumbest thing you can do. And they put it in the front yard or backyard or something, lit it on fire and started dancing around it. Landlord called us and said there's these Satan worshipers out here. These year men or whatever, like dancing around
Where
this
were you
burning
guys?
shirt
I
with
hope you
their
guys were not in
cross.
the South or something, or
No, thank God they would have been
okay.
big trouble, but oh my God. That's a funny story. They got kicked out.
Yeah.
Don't know why. Just play. It's all fun. All right.
Oh, there's a question from Ann. Thank you for the story, Casey.
Oh, no problem.
My cousin is Mormon, believe it or not. He's
Oh, is he?
elder. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay.
That's why I know the
Elder.
elders.
What's his last name?
Gideon.
Really? I don't.
That's a
Are you sure? What?
biblical name.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey,
Oh,
Anne,
geez.
go ahead, please.
Hi, Emerson.
Oh, hi, Anne.
Hello. Um. So, almost they're like a cloak.
I'm sorry.
Sorry. Can you hear me? They're
Speak
almost
a little
like
bit louder.
cloak.
Yeah, it's a
Let me-
bit muted. Yeah.
Okay. Like a cloak.
Like a
They're
cloak.
like
Yeah.
like a covering.
Yeah.
Like but there's all sorts of bits and pieces of it, and it's like it creates the self. The self
Yeah. It's like a
is,
veil, right? The words are veils of separation.
but it doesn't matter how bad it. I'm thinking about when you said that you were you had your bead and you had your
Yeah.
Lululemon and you went into somewhere where the cloak didn't work. It wasn't the same.
There was a remembrance of when I didn't have any words, meaning that when I was homeless, I didn't have any identity, and somehow there was just freedom there, right? Because it's kind of like walking into like at the end of your failure, when what your hopes and dreams collapses and crashes, right? And it's kind of like well, I guess this is it kind of thing, right? And you're walking there, and then you sit down, and somehow there's this feeling of like, oh, you know what, I'm nameless now, right? Like I don't have an identity really, right? Because it's just I'm in a sea of faces of other homeless kids in the area, and the moment that people look at you, they don't even see you, they just see homeless, because you're sitting down in the street, kind of like with a whole bunch of other kids, and you haven't showered, because you've been walking around or sleeping on benches, so to speak. So it's almost like your identity got it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
but
well,
that's when you kind of like lost everything, like you've cried about it, you're like, and somebody goes, hey, it's okay, there's a lot of us here, kind of thing. And then you look around and there's a lot of kids that are just like you in the city, right? You go to in Canada, it's really cold, so you go to the warmest city to make it, just in case you have to sleep on the park benches and stuff.
Yeah.
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 And it's like at
There's
the end
no-
of failure, like, you know, when you have completely kind of like failed, you know, and you're too embarrassed to call your parents to ask for help because you failed, right? Just kind of like,
Right.
you don't really want to go home because somehow you like it, right? Because it's kind of like there's really kind of like you're in a brand new city, no one knows you, so what kind of situation. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mm. And yet when you go home, the identity
Well,
will come
eventually, you know what I'm
out.
saying, when I got out of that, you know, and maybe a few months in that, and you know, you get a job, you know, and then you try to hide that part of your life that seemingly is embarrassing, right?
Mhm.
That you became a homeless person, or you became, you know, you failed in life, so to speak.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then I can like fix my life, you know, and got like, you know, got wealthy again, you know, and
Mhm.
and it's something that you can like almost like, so if you really look at it, it was a trigger of something that was supposed to be embarrassing, but what was remembered, you know, was in the absence of success, in the absence of attainment, in the midst of failure, right? There was freedom there.
But yet there
I
was
was
no embarrassment for you, and yet somehow it would have seemed to have been that way to other people if you'd have said to them how things had happened.
yeah,
Um,
it's like you know, it's the innocence of, you know, for example, right now, you know what I'm saying, if people, for example, if they've established, you know, themselves as, and if they failed at it, they had like a legacy that they are trying to maintain, or an image, right? So in the absence of that image, in the absence of you know, of a who cares kind of thing, right?
mm,
And there's this freedom that you can't really explain. Like you don't know where you're going to eat next or whatever, where you're going to sleep
yeah.
next, but somehow it's wild. It's free.
Mhm.
And that freedom you can't really kind of like because, you know, you usually go for you know, this spiritual classes and meditation to look for freedom. So you're trying to
Yeah.
manufacture freedom. When I encountered that same street that I was in, what triggered me was not the homeless person, was my own homelessness, and that emptiness,
Yeah.
even in that homelessness, right? That here I was kind of like fully loaded with spiritual idea, couple of certificates, thousands of hours of meditation, and not just spiritual, but, you know, just bought a condo, you know, that kind of thing. So I was fully stacked. Yet there was a point in my life that none of this was necessary.
Mm. Mm.
In the story anyway.
Did you ever try to share that emptiness?
No.
Right.
No. I'm trying to find that journal to see if I can find it so I can share it. Where is it? I'm trying to write a preface for the book, right? And I found a whole bunch of old journals, basically, that was yeah, I can't find it right now, but maybe in the next, you know, session I'll look for it, and I'll read it. Basically, what it's that freedom didn't need a storyline. Basically, is what it was trying to be said there. It didn't have you know, freedom doesn't have to look a certain way.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then when seemingly when the story progresses, you know, and trying to attain freedom, it's like, for freedom you have to lose this. At that time I was trying to lose my material energy, so to speak, because I was, prior to the spirituality, my seeking was in material wealth. Like I bought a house, you know, and was watching my money like a hawk, you know, that kind of thing. Was just obsessed about money, and I thought, and it was bringing me a lot of pain and suffering. seemingly, right? In trying to maintain that, because all I was doing was I was paranoid about losing, and then when losing the money, so I would have to invest it, and was constantly looking at my investments. So I was obsessed with it. So the seeking was in material. So I thought that by becoming spiritual, that it would be of giving all of them up, basically, was an upgrade. But that seeing, you know what I'm saying, of that character that was homeless was almost kind of like a foreshadowing in a story, if you look at it, right?
The seeking and the materialistic wasn't anything to do with a sense of lack from
It's always a
the
sense of
homeless
lack. Yeah.
experience.
Seeking is always a sense of lack, that something's missing.
Right.
Yeah. So it's seeking for what it's missing. It's seeking for itself, which is also missing. So it just goes in circles. So it's just a word seeking for a word to make it real, because it's not real. The seeking energy is not real. So it's seeking reality in hopes of the seeking that it becomes a reality, when reality is just a made up word again. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Emerson.
Oh, thank you. No, it's getting sunnier today. How's Petra doing today?
Yeah,
Good. Okay.
it's okay. My back's hurting, and
Oh,
yeah,
the COVID is still strong. Yeah.
yeah, not that strong, but it's still there. Yeah,
Yeah. How was
yeah, but
so this is the first time that you're getting it, right? After all these
yeah,
couple
after
of
3
years.
years,
Oh, wow.
yeah. So no more specialness as Novid.
Yeah.
I'm a COVID like the others.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I can see that you're smiling a little bit more, so that's good.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Because the
Okay.
first day you're like, oh, you know. Yeah.
it can happen again later. But yeah,
That's okay. Yes.
this morning I thought, well, yeah, this feels more like the body's back in balance somehow.
Are you getting lots of liquids and stuff?
Yeah, I'm 98% tea.
Okay. Oh,
Mhm.
good. Have some more rest. Yeah.
Yeah.
You like the background this time? This one?
Oh, awesome. I love it.
This is more like DJ backgrounds than.
Yeah, that's my style.
Yeah.
Mm.
Thank you, Petra.
No, not thank you yet. I should write down my questions. Every morning I have questions, and no, it's already in the afternoon. So I'll go on. I can't imagine that this feeling of being in the body ever disappears.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
No, that's not true. It happened already.
It happened already. Yeah. Again, you know what? We're just trying to grasp words and trying to, create this separate, this or that, body, me, right? So the moment that you say that this body, that's also separation. But you can also say that I am the body, because that's just another separation, because there's an I am that recognizes the body. So language is designed to create this separateness. It creates this ups and downs, positions, localities, centralization, all that kind of stuff, personal, impersonal, and
Concepts about non-duality.
concepts about non-duality and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's just this or that. Yeah. And when I had the first COVID, I had that meeting.
I remember.
For me, it was actually quite good because I could not go out of the room anyway. So what a best way to spend being in a room and just doing the meeting. So to me, that was joyful. Actually, I don't know if you can tell. There's a lot of pain in the body, but there was a lot of joy coming out.
Right. Yeah. So I'm really especially grateful for this weekend. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're trapped in your room anyway.
when it comes to midnight, last night I was in bed already, and then woke up, slept again, woke up.
Oh wow.
Yeah. No, I really enjoy it. Thank you so much for doing it.
Of course. Yeah, of course. Thank you. Thank you. You guys see how my glass disappeared there? I didn't even notice that. Hi, Emerson, what kind of camera do you use? Oh, it's just an iPhone. It's nothing special. I used to have one of those like webcam stuff, and then yeah, just the iPhone. I think the camera is really good. How did I create the back? The background is just a file, basically. It's just a PNG file. Yeah. I can tell that you love what you're doing with the visuals that you do, the graphics that you do for YouTube, your thumbnails. Oh, thank you. Yeah. There's a love for this. Yeah. Is it inevitable that non-duality speakers invariably create speakers in a subtle way? Um, there is nothing, there's actually no non-duality speakers or seekers. In the realm of words and, you know, and all this kind of stuff, there's always going to be seeking. There's always going to be speaking. There's always going to be something is missing. Although everything is an illusion and this is just a story, in the apparent history, there's always going to be a trying to figure out things that can't be figured out. Because by trying to figure out things that can't be figured out, it delays the seeing that it's not real. It creates this magic show, right? It's kind of like it creates a distraction that the one that's seeking is not actually quite there. I didn't even know about non-duality speakers, but there was seeking going on for quite a while. As I said, you know what, when in my early 20s, I was seeking financial stability. So it's always the maintenance of the character as an individual, right? Or as a separate. So for example, in my seeking for financial, what would you call that? A financial liberation, financial enlightenment, so to speak. I was longing for that jackpot, but when I seen that it was just leading to more suffering, because when I was looking for that spiritual, financial, see, it's interchangeable, material enlightenment. Then you would look up at like image, you know, create images like Bill Gates or like Tesla guy, what's his name, as the materially enlightened ones, right? So you long for what they have, that freedom with financial. But when I saw, as a young buck, I guess, saw that was just empty, I thought that by going to spirituality, seeking spirituality would lead to the real liberation, so to speak. So it longed for that spiritual enlightenment. And then when it got there, it was also saw that it was an illusion, right? So seeking always happens. Right now, they're seeking that happens for the best, kind of like buffet, the best cinnamon rolls. Sometimes it goes seeking on Netflix to seem like, oh, I'm gonna watch that show 1899 that someone suggested. So there's just not a neurotic tendency. There's no one controlling the seeking. Seeking happens, but for no one. But when you think that you're the one seeking, then it creates this energetic, or this psychological suffering, thinking that you're missing something. My background is Dali with prompt, an abstract painting of the illusory self. Oh, let me see. Oh, cool. Awesome, Casey. Question here. It is so embodied. It's so embodied, Emerson. The fear comes when it comes is felt so strongly in the body. The fear comes when it felt so strongly in the body. There is a noticing, for example, there's this unknown. And can you express that more, Anne? Sorry. It is so embodied, Emerson. The fear comes when it is felt so strongly in the body as pain or as just fear. Oh, fear.
Yeah,
When there is just, go ahead. And if you would like to add more to that.
like a really strong discomfort,
Yeah.
almost like some kind of a disciplining. I'm not sure what I'm saying, but it feels like sometimes when I take part in these, it feels like I'm doing something wrong.
Yeah.
So the feeling is doing something wrong and almost being punished for doing, but the feeling in the body is confused
Yeah.
because it doesn't mean anything,
Yeah.
but there's something connected with the feeling of the discomfort in the body
Yeah.
that tries to make it seem like there's something wrong.
Yeah. It's what, and this is just a suggestion. What seemingly happens is when there is a seeming clarity of what's being expressed, that what's being pointed out to is that the one that seemingly is being addressed, although no one's being addressed, is absent. It's afraid of its own reality, that it doesn't have any reality. So it creates this rejection appearing as words like fear or discomfort, because it's triggering that every word that is being held on to is blank, is empty. It's nothing at all. Nothing is being illuminated. So the word, the illusion, or the seemingly kind of like root of all words, which is you, or the self, you know what I'm saying, creates this this imaginary separation as discomfort, or kind of like, or a rejection. The me does not want to hear that it doesn't exist, although it longs for its own absence. It longs for the problems, but it's almost kind of like a double-edged sword, right? But when it sees that, when it sees that it doesn't exist, then it doesn't really have any problems. So it's holding on to its existence by creating, an apparent fear of the unknown, because it's unknown. Its existence is unknown, but the existence in ideas and thoughts and separation is not a reality, because reality is just a made-up word. It's afraid to be figured out, that it's not really there. So it rejects what's being offered.
It just seems though that okay. I guess there's always this sense of this nebulous thing that is the me, and it's not and it isn't a part of anything.
Yeah.
And yet somehow it just seems when it's addressed, there's this huge discomfort and upheaval, and it's not even to do with the amount of engagement there is.
Yeah.
But it's just in the body at the moment, it feels so strong.
Yes.
Whatever forever.
I used to feel that way too. I used to get so angry for no reason, for that I would actually slam my computer, right? And I would feel this almost kind of like this kind of like knot in my chest, right? Something kind of like that feels how do you say it? I'm trying to find the word. It's rejection of it, right? It's kind of like I can't accept this, right? But the very one that is trying, it is rejecting it, the one that is getting triggered by it, is not real. It's like when someone gets caught in a lie, and it can't hide that it's a lie, right? It's almost kind of like it hurts that it's true, and it's afraid, but it actually wants to admit that it's not true. It's like that when there's a criminal, I'm saying that when it's kind of like when it sees a police or something, it's afraid of getting caught, but it actually wants to get caught because it's sick and tired of hiding. Yeah. It's like something, and basically it thinks that it's guilty, but it's innocent because it's not even there. It fears that it's guilty of all of its imaginings as real. But what's being pointed out is that even that is not real. So if it's not real, then it's innocent. Yeah. So it's afraid of its innocence, but it's holding on to what it thinks it has done. Which is kind of like what it has done, which is basically create a fake reality, maintaining that it's real. Therefore, maintaining everything that it's done is either wrong or right. But there's no wrong or right. It's just a fantasy.
That's strange, crazy.
Yeah. And that's just a story, of course.
Yeah.
But the story is is afraid to get caught that it's not a true story.
Yeah.
Although it's trying to maintain that it's a true story by creating some narratives that this did happen to me, and all that kind of stuff of shame and guilt that keeps it alive, right? But it just really wants to it just really wants to surrender at the same time. It's afraid of getting caught, but it wants to surrender.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have a choice to surrender or
Yeah.
it can't, it doesn't have a free will or choice because it's not real. Yeah. That's how I felt, for quite a while, right? It's like yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. become clear. I remember from Dianetic, the drawing on the board is all erased. Yes. Thank you for that. Or it's just all clear. Nothing to become clear or unclear. It's just all clear. So what's being illuminated is that when nothing is illuminated, it's just all been clear. Well, thank you so much, everyone. The next meeting is the best meeting ever. Just kidding. I'm going to eat something, but thank you so